here, just about.
Just straight in and straight into the seat. Oh well, nothing like live radio. Okay, winter. It can be a kind of a dull affair sometimes, and out in nature, well, we have insects that are hibernating and birds that have gone off and some more that have arrived, and flowers are, well, very few, I suppose, that bloom at this time of the year. So I'm painting a rather bleak picture, but there's still plenty to see and still plenty to appreciate, including a lot of little birds who are only too keen to get up a bit closer, maybe. And when I say they get closer, it's not that they're friendlier this time of the year. It's just that they're more desperate, especially when the weather gets bad.
They are desperate, the poor little things. Yeah, you think of the robin that's in the garden, or the wren. They're our two most common birds in Ireland. And they estimate there's over 6 million of each type. 6 million robins, 6 million wrens across the island. And they need to eat at least their own body weight every day to put on enough fat reserves so that they can shiver all the way through the night. You mentioned the solstice earlier on, and we're this period now, this kind of 2-week period, the amount of daylight kind of stays the same. We're in the shortest daylight. So it's about 16 hours of darkness, as we all know. And that means they can't forage, they can't feed. So they're relying on whatever body fats they've built up during the day, just to try and sustain themselves through the night so they can make it to tomorrow. And that's where they're not thinking Christmas, New Year's, plans for spring. They're just trying to survive.
They live day to day like a lot of wee animals. And we haven't even hit the really bad weather yet. There hasn't been any, serious frost or snow as such. But that's, that probably will come, and that makes it even harder again.
Yeah, it does, because the harder frost, of course, well, in the hard frost, they can't access water, but also it makes it harder to access the ground for the little bugs and whatnot. And a lot of birds, you'll often see, if you look at the little blue tits or the coal tits that go to your feeders at the moment, quite often when they're hanging around waiting for their go on the feeder, you'll see them flitting through the little branches, and they'll be pecking into every tiny little crack, every little crevice in the bark, and all the tiny little bugs and the little eggs of bugs that are dormant waiting for next year. A lot of which might be attacking your tree or attacking your crops, or they're picking away. So they're doing a service for us the whole time in that way. But the colder it is, the less accessible all those things are.
Is there a hierarchy on our bird tables? Are there some birds that even, let's say they're all roughly the one size? I'm taking away from blackbirds and magpies that might try to get stuff. But small birds, garden birds that are the one size. Is there a hierarchy? Are there some birds that get more than others?
Definitely, yeah. So the robin will rarely go onto the feeder. And the wren, the same. In fact, the wren will flit in and out of the feeder a little bit or underneath, but you won't see it there so much. Whereas the robin will hang around at the bottom, it'll pick up the scraps. And then on the feeders themselves, you've got the great tits, the blue tits, and the coal tits. They're all they're the most common ones. And the great tits and the blue tits have the yellowish front, and the great tit is bigger. And when it lands, you see the others all scatter for a few seconds, and they'll give it a few seconds of pecking away, but then they'll start coming in again. They won't leave it too long, and it's amazing. The birds won't hog the feeder as such. They'll take a few goes, they'll chase off the others, but once they've had a few little bits of peanut, they tend to flit off themselves.
And that's probably because they're afraid they won't stay anywhere too long in case there's a predator about.
It's just the size thing. I enjoy watching rugby on the TV, and when you watch some of the small. Peter Casey and some of these little scrum halves and some of the massive big forwards land beside them. It's a bit like that for the birds. There's a bird maybe 1.5 or twice the body mass landing right beside them, so they get out of the way pretty quick. But the other ones that can be very tough and can chase off others, and they're beautiful to watch, are the goldfinches. And they're the ones, the little red face, and they have this yellowy gold bars on their wings. So when they're flapping their wings, you see this gold iridescence all around them.
I suppose it's a tough time for all birds, and like that includes the bigger birds and the more common ones, the blackbirds and the magpies and so on, the crows.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So same thing with the blackbirds and the thrushes. They're relying on the berries that are on the hawthorns or on the hollies. And it's interesting if you notice the berries when you're out on your winter walks, the hawthorns still have berries. The rowan trees have pretty much finished. Their berries are pretty much gone. Whereas the holly berries are really coming ripe now, or it's only the last few weeks that they've become ripe. So all these various different trees and shrubs, they all seem to have their time. And that, of course, staggers the food, because as well as being very dark, a short feeding period, and as well as being cold and frosty, the food store that's there is depleting the whole time. And all of the time, pretty much every week, there's fresh batches of birds are moving in from further north of here, and they're moving around the whole time, constantly pecking away at that store, you know.
So what sort of birds are coming here? Because there's some birds obviously that have come and gone. They'll be back next year. But what about birds that, you know, have arrived here in numbers for the winter?
Yeah, so and there's been a good few comments I've seen, or people asking the question recently about the mallard duck. And the mallard duck is our most common duck, and the males have that beautiful and green, iridescent green head. They're quite a big duck, and you'll see a lot of them at the quay in Ramelton, and Ramelton's where I live. But you'll get them in all
hunters
over.
love them, do they?
Hunters like them, yeah, absolutely. And then the Silver Hill Duck farm, that massive duck operation that operates in Emmyvale. The duck that you eat comes from the mallard duck. It's a version. The domesticated duck was mallard originally. But there's always mallards in the Lennon estuary. There's always mallards in the Swilly and in other estuaries like that around the county, breeding in the right places in the summer. But their numbers are added to a huge way from birds that come north of here. So currently there's probably about 1,000 mallard in Lough Swilly, and that's just one type of duck.
So would that be our most common duck then?
Well, thereabouts in the summertime. In the winter, not so much, because there's huge numbers of widgeon and huge number of teal that come. Right. And widgeon is often called the whistler duck. And if you're walking along the shore and you hear this funny little whistling sound, that's the widgeon. About the size of a mallard, but very different colour.
Where do they come from?
And they come from, again, everything is coming from north of here. So if you think of the Baltic Sea and all the countries around there, so you've got Germany and Denmark to the south, and then you've Scandinavia and Russia off to the north. So some of the birds are coming from as far away as Siberia from Russia. Yeah. Some of them coming from Iceland.
And they come here because it's a bit milder.
Yeah, and well, that's the thing.
Do they go any further south than here?
Some do. Some come here and they stay, and a lot of that is a little bit incumbent on us, really, because they've been doing this migratory route for thousands upon thousands of years before ever we settled on the shores of the Swilly or whatever other estuary, Donegal Bay or wherever we are. And we've been tampering with the shore since, and reclaiming bits and putting things into the rivers and into the estuaries and all the rest of it. And these birds have been relying on this as a safe winter place. So even though they're not birds that might necessarily nest here all the time, they need our clean water. They need space. They need space from the hunter, from the human hunter, from the fox. They need that little bit of shelter.
Okay, so a variety of reasons. What about other animals then over the winter? Some of them adapt to the winter and maybe, you know, grow an extra layer, or even in some cases change colour.
Some change colour. We don't have a huge amount in Ireland that change colour, but some show a little hint of it. And occasionally you'll come across a stoat that is white, or ermine as they call it. And stoats, the Irish stoat is a subspecies of the European stoat. Stoats are very common creature. They'd be related to weasels and mink and some of those other things.
You see them along riverbanks, would you?
You'll see the mink along the riverbanks, but the stoats possibly, but more so in around the stone walls, in around the fields, that kind of thing. Okay. You could find them anywhere. They live up in the hills. They live down in the sand dunes. They live in all sorts of different places.
They're fairly elusive.
Very elusive, very adaptable. They're quite small, only about not even a foot long with their tail out. We don't have weasels in Ireland. You'll often hear people refer to stoats as weasels. Across in Britain, they've the two. Weasel is smaller again, but we have the stoat, or the whitred, it is often called. And the Irish, the Irish stoat is a subspecies, as I said, because it's been here since the Ice Age. It's believed. And some of those will go white. Their underbelly is white anyway, but some of them will go white on top during the winter time. Not terribly many, but some. But those that do. And it's a real problem for a lot of animals. Again, further north in places that they get more snow because of climate change, because we've been heating up the globe so much and messing with these weather patterns. In some places there's more snow as a result. In some places there's less snow. In some places the snow is less predictable when it's going to come. And if you are, say, a mountain hare living in the highlands of Scotland, and you've molted your coat and you've this beautiful white coat to try and blend in, but there's no snow. You're just a white beacon sitting there ready for the golden eagle or whatever it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
So hares do sort of adapt as well.
Hares do. Irish hares that we have, again, are related to an Arctic species, really, and they've been here for a very, very long time. But our hares tend not to change colour, whereas once you only need to go as far as Scotland, not very far north, and their hares do, some of them to a certain extent, and then further north again.
Okay. And some animals, I suppose, well, there's some in hibernation, but there's others then that are a bit harder to spot because they're conserving energy.
Yeah, completely. Well, you think of the classic for that is the hedgehog. So we think an awful lot of creatures hibernate, and you go into a class and people say, oh, the badger and the fox and the rest are hibernating. Not many Irish creatures actually hibernate. The hedgehog is one of the few that do. And what they're doing is they're bringing down the temperature of their body, and they're slowing down their whole body system. And it's an amazing thing to be able to do, really, to be able to effectively shut down but still stay alive. Bats do something similar as well. The bat's resting heartbeat is at least 200 beats a minute. And you think when you're belting down the road for the bus or on the football pitch or whatever you do, your heart rate might go up to 160, maybe even 170. Their heartbeat is at 200, a resting heartbeat, and it goes up from there. When that same bat that has a heartbeat of 200, when it hibernates, it drops it down to about 2, 3, 4 beats a minute. Again, it virtually stops. It shuts down so many different parts of its brain, and then just keeps the vital organs going. It has a kind of antifreeze type coagulant in its blood, which helps it to keep its core ticking over no matter how cold it gets.
Okay, and then there's some animals or insects that disappear altogether. They are in that mode. They are in full hibernation.
They're in full hibernation, and it's funny, we think of butterflies, such a fragile little thing, and we think of them very much for the summer, and they appear in the summer, appear only for those few weeks, and then we think no more of them. But some of those butterflies have laid eggs and died off, and then those eggs turn into a caterpillar, which forms a chrysalis. And like so many of our insects, you think of the amount of insects we're going to see next summer. So many of them are in some kind of cocoon or some kind of little egg protection system down in the mud, in that crack in the branch, hoping not to get eaten. Whereas some of our butterflies migrate, head south of here, go down to the Mediterranean, or there's even one species, the painted lady, that goes all the way as far as Morocco to escape the cold. And then there's...
They'll come back again.
And they'll come back again.
Hard to believe the butterflies go the whole way to Morocco and then come back. Something as small and as light as a butterfly.
Isn't it just incredible? Yeah. But they're able to do it. They're hardwired into being able to find the right place and find the right type of plant, because their caterpillars will only eat specific plants, and hope that we haven't mowed those plants down or trimmed them, of course, and the rest of it. But the small tortoiseshell butterfly and the peacock butterfly, and the ones that people will be familiar with, they come out later on in the summer, beautiful orange colours, little blue touches on the small tortoiseshell, or the peacock is the one with the big eyes when it opens up, pretending it's a big predator. And they will be in your shed right now, in the barn, underneath the pile of turf, underneath the pile of logs, maybe even in the bathroom or the attic space.
Hibernating.
And
if you disturb one of these, what happens? Is that lights out for them?
Yeah, it potentially could be, yeah, because if they're disturbed, they've such a small reserve that they can keep within them that it'll only take a couple of waking ups for them to use up that reserve. And if they can't replace it with a bit of nectar from a flower, they're bunched. So, of course, they respond to temperature. Right. And that temperature comes with the rising light. So this time of year, very little light, very little temperature, they've shut down. They'll hope to emerge in March or so and get the first of the dandelions that are out, for instance, those lovely early flowers of the willow trees. But if you disturb one now, and say if there's one in the bathroom and you see it, and it's woken up for some reason, if you can get a little saucer with some water and sugar melted in it, and just a little bit of warm water, a little bit of sugary solution, basically, right. And just set it down beside that, just a few drops of it in a saucer, and you put the butterfly inside that, and you'll see its long proboscis, its long tongue. It's like a big straw which it has wrapped up inside its mouth. It'll go down and drink up some of that. That might give it enough sustenance. And then just pop it into, say, an egg carton or the inside of an old toilet roll or something like that, and pop it into the attic and forget about it. And it'll emerge again then when the time of year is right.
Just remember to let it out of the attic then.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
And this sort of colour chart that you brought in, and there's any number of butterflies on there. Can they all be seen here in Ireland?
Yeah, that's the beauty of this.
Wow.
These little swatches are fantastic things. Biodiversity Ireland is a wonderful website, and they collate all of the nature data, nature information of Ireland. And then they create these little swatches which help people to survey. So wherever they see gaps in the data, they'll create these kind of things.
A great way game, or a great way of getting kids interested in nature. You take this sort of colour chart with you out in the wild, and you see a butterfly, and then you have to find it on here, and all the info's on it.
Absolutely, and
it's easy to carry as well.
It's very easy to carry, very easy to identify with them, and the other thing that's clever about it as well is it has the different codes of the months, so it shows you the months that they peak. Some butterflies will peak in two different times a year, so they'll have two different generations, some just the one, but it'll tell you when to look out for it. And Irish butterflies, there's only about 33 species, and they're very obliging. A few of them come out in spring, a few more in early summer, a few more in late summer, so you only have to learn a few at a time.
All right, you might not be seeing any butterflies, but there's plenty to see if you're out for your winter walks or whatever, or out in particular, over the Christmas time to work off a few calories. There's still plenty to see and sounds to listen out for.
Oh, there's so much to see, and particularly along our coastlines, our waterfronts. And I'd ask people, a lot of people will be out going for lovely nature walks now with their families over the next few weeks. Keep an eye on your dog, and when you hit the coast, try and keep your dog on the lead. If you're on a busy beach, that's a different thing, and that's up to you how you deal with people and the local bylaws there. But in quieter places, you'll find birds on the shore, and they've done study after study after study, and they've shown that with dogs disturbing those birds, they use up their fat reserves. They don't survive the night.
I think we need not. I totally understand, and I think more and more people are becoming aware of this. But we need more dedicated places for dogs where they can go off and run around, socialise with other dogs, get their exercise. And I think more and more towns should be, the council maybe could step in and just provide a bit of a field or a bit of land that they have, so people then don't feel that they have to take their dog elsewhere, get them exercise and let them off the lead so as to get a proper run around. But if they had this dedicated space where they could go to each day, it would make life a lot better.
It would be a brilliant idea. And they do this in so many different countries. Across Europe, you'll often come across this: beaches where just dogs are not allowed, and then beaches that are for dogs and dog owners. And it's a lovely social thing then as a result. Nobody wants their dog to be disturbing nature. But about half of households in Ireland now have a dog. It's incredible the amount of people of households that have got dogs since COVID in particular. And each and every one of those has its own impact. And dogs are wonderful and very fond of dogs, but you just have to make sure you have them on the lead. And certain places at certain times of year, you shouldn't be bringing them wherever there's ground nesting birds. But we can touch them that again in the spring. But at this time of year, just to watch, if you think it's having a great time chasing the geese up and down the beach, or the oyster catchers, those ones, the big orange bills or whatever, try and get it back, because they're really depleting the reserves. And that's not the best thing to do.
Okay, Aengus, thank you very much. Thanks for all your contribution all year. Talks always interesting, illuminating, educational, and just never know what we might get. And you're never, ever, ever stumped for an answer. So
well, thanks, John, and it's and to you and to the team at Highland, thank you as well, and happy Christmas. And it's what you do. Putting a little highlight on nature is a really important thing, because if we don't understand what's out there and we don't know what's going on out there, how are we supposed to be able to protect it and look after it? And we know from the feedback that we get that just talking about it often brings people a bit of joy. So thank you.
Not at all. That's the reason we do it. Aengus, happy Christmas.
Happy Christmas.